Good evening, folks. Happy Saturday. It's Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Today, I want to talk about Hezi Eris in the Yonkers Tribune. Also, the Hawaii fire that's completely devastated a town there in Maui. So let's talk about it.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad plays action.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad.
Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Happy Saturday. Very humid out there. Hot, muggy, sticky. A lot going on. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight I want to talk about Hezi Eris in the Yonkers Tribune and what he posted, or an article he released in regards to his series called The Blue Truth. Also, I want to talk about an email that I received from someone that I've become pen pals with, as well as the fires in Hawaii, the wildfires that have left 55 people dead and 1,000 people still missing. Let's talk about it. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Happy Saturday. Hope everything is going well for you, folks. I got this article sent to me by a few people. They shared it with me. It's the article in regards to Hezi, that was posted by Hezi Eris. He wrote an article. In it, he's redacting and apologizing for what he wrote about for 6 years. This guy was writing about the police department here in the city of Yonkers, specifically Yonkers PBA President Keith Olson, but also former Commissioner John Mueller, as well as former Detective Brian Moran, who I believe is the officer that was shot while attempting to make an arrest on Elm Street in a bodega. And so as a result of these articles that Hezi was writing in the Yonkers Times, where he was exposing what was going on, he was sued. They filed a lawsuit. Keith Olson, the president of the PBA, again, sued Hezi, and that lawsuit went on for a couple years or several years. Hezi, at one point he was, standing firm, saying that what he was writing was the truth, and he was getting his information from a source that we found out, or not we will, I guess we, the people, found out to be, I believe, a detective, a police officer within the Yonkers Police Department, officer by the name of Ray Montero, I believe, they may believe that that was the source. I'm not sure if he was, or they believe that he was the source. And if anyone knows, they can correct me there. But that's what I was told, that either that he was, or they believe that he was one of the sources anyway, maybe not the only source, but one of the sources. A judge ruled that Hezi Eris was not a journalist. He was not a journalist, and therefore he was not protected, and he had to give up his sources. And that's similar to what I'm going through now with Zehi, right? Zehi Jeris, who's suing me for $1 million over my podcast. Difference is that I have things that I can prove it, and I don't always release all of the information that I have and get. But I'm not sure what Hezi had, what sources were telling him specifically, and why he, felt that it was, reliable enough to write about it for 6 years. But, the information that I have is provable. I have a lot of documentation and stuff, thanks to a lot of people, insiders, people that were inside at one point. A lot of people will say that Hezi was right. A lot of people are, supporting Hezi, saying that this is just, part of the lawsuit that he lost. He has to give up the sources. He has to redact this, the everything that he said, and apologize. But it's really the truth. And they feel bad for Hezi because they said he's been battling this for so many years. He was the only guy, I think, at that point, and he paid his dues, right? Unfortunately, his health was deteriorating, and he had these lawsuits that were hurting him financially, and he just couldn't, he couldn't win. It was something that he just couldn't win. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, listen, there's obviously things that are happening based on things that I have, the information I have. A lot of the stuff that I receive was more about politicians, elected officials, what was going on, city officials who were appointed or hired, right? It wasn't necessarily about the police department, police officers. And I haven't heard, me personally, I haven't received anything negative in regards to Keith Olsen, the president of the PBA. Not one thing have I received stating that he's this, that, or the third. And even when I spoke about him with Anthony DiMaggio at several points and several times in various podcasts that we did, even Anthony DiMaggio said that Keith Olsen, seemed like a pretty stand-up guy. He didn't have anything, to say negatively about him. He didn't know of anything that he was involved in negatively. So, I don't know. Again, I go by what information I get. I can't. What other people write. I will. Hear other people. I always wanted to hear both sides, right? But if I can't prove it, I can't say what he was saying was 100% correct. And I believe what Hezi was saying on there, but I'm not going to say it wasn't. I don't know. I personally don't know. I've never received any of that information myself. I've never received anything negative about Keith Olsen. Obviously, in podcasts that I've done with Anthony DiMaggio, there was a lot of negative things that were said about John Mueller. And that's based off Anthony DiMaggio's experience that he had, while he was a police officer, a 15-year police officer for the Yonkers Police Department. What I know of John Mueller, again, is just only what I've known of from meeting the guy. He was always, polite. Anthony would say that's just an act, I'm sure. But I never received also information on John Mueller as well, negatively, saying that he was doing anything wrong at all. But I will say this. And again, somebody maybe can let me know if it was Ray Montero that was the source, if that was confirmed, or if that just what they believed. Officer or Detective Ray Montero actually sued the Yonkers Police Department and the city of Yonkers. Ray Montero was having a beef with Keith Olsen, and he wanted to become the PBA president, Ray Montero, right? And so they had this beef, they had this feud, and so Ray Montero ended up not becoming the PBA president. Keith Olsen did. And so was that a reason why, if he was the one giving information to Hezi, why he was giving him information? Because I will say this, I will say that people will give you false information, right? And I know that I've received information that I know was false, right? People will try to do things like that. People do have agendas. People, want revenge, right? And sometimes they'll give you real information, right? Sometimes they have an agenda and they want revenge, and they will give you actual real information that's truthful. But sometimes they may give you false information, right? Sometimes they may want to utilize you to hurt somebody and to damage someone's reputation, which is what's happening to me and what's been happening to me, and why I have to have defended myself, because that's what was being done to me and my family, right? In my business. So I understand that you also get information that's false from people. So what I know of Ray Montero, if he was a source, I don't know, but I do have a familiarity with Ray Montero from growing up on the West Side. Growing up in the streets, Ray Montero was known by people in the streets, those who were out there hustling or doing whatever they were doing. And he was known as a guy that would rough you up, that would take your money even, and he's never roughed me up. He's never taken my money, but that's the reputation that Ray Montero had on the street. People would just call him Montero. There goes Montero. And then there was Beavis and Butthead, right? The two officers. And I'm not sure who those guys were, but, there were these officers that would be known by people in the street. And so from what I know of Ray Montero, he wasn't the nicest guy. He wasn't a guy that was honest, right? At least from the people in the streets that would tell me, because again, once upon a time, I've had relatives that were out there, doing things they shouldn't have been doing, but they've moved on, they've grown up, but, and friends, and I would hear it. I would hear about the different officers. And so from my experience and what I know, I don't know, is he a reliable source? Was he utilizing this to get back at Keith Olsen because he did not become the Yonkers PBA president? Or was everything that Hezi was writing truthful? I don't know. But again, I've never received anything negative on Keith Olsen. I've never had anything bad to say about Keith Olsen, and neither did Anthony DiMaggio. And, I like to think that if there was something, that Keith Olsen was up to, or something wrong he was doing, or if he was a bad guy, in general, that Anthony DiMaggio would have said it, right? That's what I believe. He would have said that. So, I just wanted to talk about that. Let me read the article real quick, and let's hear what Hezi had to say. For 7 years, between 2013 and 2020, I published a series of articles in the Yonkers Tribune concerning the Yonkers Police Department. This series of stories, which I refer to as the Blue Truth, focused primarily on Yonkers PBA President Detective Keith Olsen, then Yonkers Police Captain John Mueller, and Detective Sergeant Brian Moran. In publishing these articles, I relied on information from a number of sources from within the Yonkers Police Department. But I have come to learn that much of the content in these Blue Truths series or articles were false, inaccurate, misleading, and defamatory. In retrospect, I realized that I relied on information provided by sources who had their own agendas, some from within the YPD, and I recognized that I should have done a more thorough job at fact-checking before publishing some of these articles. Specifically, I hereby publicly retract any and all accusations of criminal behavior I made against the Yonkers PBA President, Detective Keith Olsen, now MTA Police Chief John Mueller, and now retired Detective Sergeant Brian Moran in the Blue Truth articles published between 2013 and 2020. I also retract any and all statements I have made which refer to or suggest that Keith Olsen, John Mueller, and Brian Moran stole money from the YFD Tough Man charity. Dang. Keith Olsen committed the felony of bribery by offering an illegal monetary bribe to county and state politicians in exchange for the promotion of Mr. Mueller to the position of Commissioner of Public Safety for Westchester County, and that John Mueller and Brian Moran submitted perjured police reports to the Yonkers Police Department. John Mueller and Keith Olsen denied assistance to Detective William Sullivan during the COVID pandemic, and that his contributed to Detective Sullivan's tragic death. Dang, how would that contribute to it, though? That John Mueller improperly hosted a beer party in his police precinct in violation of department rules. Man, listen, I've been at beer parties at jobs before. I'm guilty. Keith Olsen committed various criminal offenses, including perjury and evidence tampering. Keith Olsen, John Mueller, and Brian Moran harassed, targeted, and employed intimidation tactics against members of the Yonkers Police Department for their own benefit. Keith Olsen used Yonkers City employees and equipment for his own personal use. John Mueller and Keith Olsen misused PBA funds, conspired to illegally divert PBA funds to either themselves or to politicians, or refused to file or disclose expenditure reports relating to these funds. Keith Olsen violated federal election law. I now also recognize that I improperly managed a section of my website which allowed readers to anonymously post comments. At times, the comment section of the Blue Truth articles devolved into a haven for vile, racist, and homophobic comments. Writers directed some of these comments at Olsen, Mueller, Moran, and their friends and family. I never intended the comment section to be used for such a purpose and should have intervened to disallow this from happening. I regret not doing so. Finally, I personally and publicly apologize to Mr. Olsen, Mr. Mueller, and Mr. Moran, and especially to their family and friends for the pain and humiliation they may have endured from these wrongful accusations. I regret that their reputation may have suffered because of decided statements. Kindly, Hezi. Well, Hezi, here's the thing about that. You in the comment section, Hezi, either allows or doesn't allow comments. I know I've wrote comments that I don't think they were. I tried twice. I didn't get them on there, so I never did it again. This was maybe 2 years ago, and they weren't anything crazy. It just, wasn't maybe the narrative that they wanted in those comments. So, I think that, you do create a narrative when you allow certain comments and don't allow others, which is why I don't, censor comments. You could put whatever comment you want, good, bad, or indifferent about me or whatever, I let it be. That's your opinion, right? But he would control that narrative, creating, this perception. And I thought that was wrong, and it still goes on that way on the comment section. So he's apologizing to Keith Olsen. And you know what? I mean, listen, I'm a guy that I don't believe in just bashing people unless there's real thing, and I have stuff, man, about what I've done, but I've never gotten nothing on Keith Olsen. No one's ever said anything bad about him, or anyone in the Yonkers Police Department, really, for that matter. Obviously, we've had our conversation with Anthony DiMaggio. You know how he feels about former Police Commissioner John Mueller. That's, excuse me, his thing that he's got going on. I don't take away from it. That's his thing. But outside of that, I've never received anything. So let's give it up for Keith Olsen, because his sister does the Relay for Life. And his nephew is Mr. Yonkers Foodie, which I don't know if you like me calling you that or not, but I don't, what's your name? I'm sorry. If you don't, let me know. All right. He's been vindicated. Keith Olsen has been vindicated, right? And he has to publicly apologize. Now, does he have to take the articles down? Because I think that they're still up. So I don't know if that's part of it. And is there any monetary, compensation that he has to pay to Keith Olsen, John Mueller, and Brian Moran? Or was the public apology and the retraction, I should say, I was saying retraction, enough? Or was that the whole thing? I don't know. But, it's just a sad situation all around, right? It's a sad situation all around. And, I wish Hezzy the best of luck. Wish Keith Olsen the best of luck. I wish John Mueller the best of luck. I wish Detective Sergeant Brian Moran the best of luck, because, I'm sure they had to go through some stuff. Now, I want to talk about we're sticking with the police here. Shout out to the Yonkers police. And no, I was not told to do this by anyone. I do respect the police. I actually have respect for the police. And there are a lot of officers that I respect because they have gained that respect from me, right? There's a couple female officers. I'm sorry, ladies, if I don't know your name, but I saw one of them again not that long ago, I think in the 4th. Shout out to you, ladies. I appreciate you, officers. So I don't, we need cops. You see what's going on around here, right? We need the police. This incident happened here on Palisade Avenue. This is where the young black male, the young boy, and I have to say that because it's about race, was walking up Palisade. Someone called and said that they saw a 5-year-old boy, but the boy, I think he said he was 13, maybe 11, but he's no younger than that. And it's obvious. I don't see how someone could have mistaken for a 5-year-old. Well, this blew up because it went national when D.L. Hughley, the comedian, the actor, picked it up and, was crying racism. Look how they're treating the black boy, and playing the race card, which, listen, I've experienced racism. I have, right? My wife has. Well, she was told to go back to Africa once at a fair, right? And she's like, I've never been to Africa. So I understand it, but I'm not quick to pull the race card, and we shouldn't do that because that just leads to more division, creates the division, and perpetuates that division. And we have to start building better relationships with our communities and the police officers. So I will agree with that individual who emailed me. I agree with a lot of your stuff. I really do, and I respect what you had to say. And thank you for being kind and asking about my family and wishing them well. So thank you for that. I wish you and your family well as well. So again, I agree with a lot of what you said, and and I appreciate your comments. But let's take a look here. People were saying the boy was disrespectful because he didn't stop completely, or he didn't, answer all of the questions that the police officers had for him. They were just checking up on him, making sure that he was okay, that he wasn't lost, that he didn't need their help, right? So people went on and commented how the boy was disrespectful, this, that, and the third. And then, I don't know. I didn't see it, but I also didn't like the fact that he was being called disrespectful. I didn't like the negative comments towards the boy because a lot of people really don't understand his situation, right? And there is a learning lesson. I said this for everybody. Everybody can learn here. And this is what it's all about. We have to learn. That's how we get better. That's how we progress. And we need each other right now, folks. We need each other. Black, white, brown, Asian, all of us need each other more than ever. So let me say this.
Yes.
He was by himself.
Yes.
Come here. Where are you going to? Where's home? Up there? Okay, are you by yourself? Are you by yourself? Okay, how old are you? 13. Okay. Hold on. Wait 1 second. What's your name? I know. Somebody called about you because they were worried because you're walking around by yourself. I guess they thought you were younger than you are. Who do you live with?
So the boy actually does stop, right? They made it seem like he didn't stop. He was just being rude and disrespectful. And he says, I didn't do anything wrong, sir. Right? So he's not speaking in a disrespectful manner. He's not being rude. He's not cursing, right? He just doesn't understand what's going on. Again, he's still a young boy at the end of the day. And again, the police officer didn't do anything wrong here. This is not anti-cops at all.
Your mom, what's your mom's name? Hold on, come here. You can't cross the street yet. You're not in trouble. I just want to talk to you. Okay, then, Palisade. Where's up the block? Where? What address?
So he stops again and he says, I live right up there, right? He doesn't want to necessarily give his address, right? And so I want to touch on that. I grew up on this side of town. I grew up, just like this young boy. I grew up in a single family home myself. That's why I, make it a point to give my kids both mom and dad in the home, because like the emailer said, there is a link between single family homes, or I should say, having two parents in the home and the success rate of a child. Absolutely. In fact, your children are more likely to be successful if they come from a home of mom and dad and they're both married and they get married first before they have the child. That's just the statistics, right? And so that's what I wanted to do, because I grew up in a single parent home and I know what, it's like to not know where your dad is and wonder at night as you're laying in bed, is he okay? Is he safe? Because it's nighttime, right? And you just want your dad. And so, and there's not a man there teaching you how to be a man, right? So, this boy is growing up in an environment just like that. We don't know what his home situation is like, right? And if he gives his address and let's say the police go to his address, right, that could cause trouble for him. Even though he didn't do anything, we don't know what, his mom is going to react like, the people in his home going to react like. Let's say they're right there. And I'm not saying this is what they were doing. I'm just saying in general, let's say hypothetically speaking, they're doing something that, illegal maybe, and the cops knock on their door just because they're bringing their child there to make sure that he's safe. And now they got a whole nother situation on their hands, right? And then, then he can get in trouble. He can face, even though he did nothing, right? They'll probably say, you should have just kept walking. Why did you stop and talk to them? Why did you tell them the address? So he's thinking about that, right? So we have to understand that factor. So it's not that he's necessarily disrespectful. It's just, he just doesn't understand what's going on. He's nervous. He doesn't want create any problems, and he just wants to get home. He's focused like I would be when I had to go somewhere and on my own and I was very young. You just stay focused. You aware of your surroundings, of course, and I was his age, getting on the bus, going to my grandmother's house, right? And you have to be focused and just get to where you need to go, right? And that's it. You don't want to cause any problems. So I think that was more what the situation is here. But yes, there is a problem with single family homes that does create, a situation for generational poverty to continue. That cycle of poverty, right? The boys are growing up not really being taught, how to be men, because there's a lack of men, right? It's not like they have a man that owns a business, or they see a man getting up every day, going to work and working hard. Me, I was fortunate to see that in my grandfather. My grandfather, every single day, except for Sunday, unless we were doing something on Saturday with the family, would go to work. He'd be up by 6 a.m, probably out the door by 6 a.m. Actually, he would get home at 11 o'clock at night. He worked every day, right? That he could not stop working. So I saw that and I took that same work ethic, and I knew that I wanted to break the cycle of poverty. And so I met my wife at 16. I said, she's going to be a good mom. This is a woman I need to marry. And I stuck with it because I made that choice, and I was fortunate to have seen some of that and be taught some of that along the way. But not many young kids that come from where I come from they're not always fortunate to have those same opportunities, right? So we have to understand this and have that sympathy, and not call a little kid, disrespectful and badmouth them and say, you're a grown adult. You should never do that, right? He wasn't cursing. He wasn't yelling at the cops. He just wanted to get home. He didn't want any trouble, because again, there are parents like that in the hood. You know, you bring any kind of issue or whatever, even though you didn't do anything, they're going to whoop your tail. I seen it before growing up in the hood, right? You should have just came home. Why did you tell them the address? Blah, blah, blah. You know, you don't know that, right? The officers did nothing wrong. They were doing their job. They just wanted to make sure that the kid was okay. So, you know, to the people that are saying they were being racist or they were doing this, because it was nothing like that. I didn't see that. And that's just, again, you know, people, you know, who are quick to play the race card, causing division among us when we need to be together more than ever. We need to be united as Americans of all colors more than ever, because there's a lot happening to us right now. We need to see what's going on. Freddie, it's good to wish John Mueller luck. Listen, I'm trying to be, not wishing people bad, because I don't. I just, listen, you know, God takes care of that. I don't. He's going to need it. While he's been trying to get a monkey off his back, an 800-pound gorilla has been rampaging through the jungle in his direction. Yeah. Well, you know, I wish you luck. How about that? I wish you also luck as well with that. Anthony DiMaggio, you know, I know you got a lot of stuff going on there. And Anthony DiMaggio has been talking about it on the podcast that he has now on his page. So you can go check that out if you want updates, if you haven't already. You know, he's giving updates on his recent, thing with the investigation with the Westchester County DA, right, that paid a visit to your home. So, you know, to the individual that emailed me, I agree with a lot of the things you said. Absolutely, 1,000%. The problem is, how do we break that cycle, right? And yes, there is a lot of money being spent in the communities to try and clean it up, to try, you know, and provide things for our kids or kids there or for the people there. But let's not also, act like there aren't other individuals, elected officials and other people. And I'm not saying anyone in Yonkers specifically, but all over the country, this happens when money like that comes for programs and stuff. It gets mismanaged, right? It does get spent, but how is it spent? Right. And if they are giving money to organizations, are they following up and ensuring that these organizations are doing exactly what they are being given money to do, and what they said they're going to do, and what they set out to do? And are they producing results, right? Are they producing results? So that's another thing you have to think about, right? And I'm sure you're aware of that a little bit to the emailer. You know, there's people always putting their hands in the pot. There's people not doing the right thing, whether it's elected officials or even community leaders. And I'm speaking in general, not just saying in Yonkers, saying throughout the country, right? That, you know, don't do the right thing. They're in it for themselves. So there's a lot of factors that play into all of that. It's so complex. So what I'm saying we do is take responsibility for ourselves, right? Because it's so complex, so many issues going on between so many different people, that if we take responsibility for ourselves and we set out to do the right thing in life as best as we can, because we're not perfect, then I think everything else will fall into place, right? Everything else will fall into place. But we have to take accountability first and foremost, because that's really all we could do. All we could really do. So, you know, I wanted to say I appreciate the email to that individual. Thank you for watching the show. Anytime email me, I figure I answered you back on the podcast, because I wanted to talk about it a little bit again. Shout out to the Yonkers Police Department, for doing a good job here, for doing a good job just in general. I do care about the police department. I do care about police officers. There are some bad apples, just like in any business. There is bad apples everywhere, unfortunately, but we can't generalize. And I've had my experiences with good officers, right? So that's what I want to say about that. Anyway, moving on. Maui is on fire. Have you guys been paying attention to this in Hawaii? Hawaii is really burning down. And what's going on there in Hawaii? I mean, look at this.
Completely been
oh my gosh, look at the
wiped
harbor.
off the map.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it.
That's unbelievable. That's really unbelievable, and it's sad. 55 people so far have been confirmed dead. 1,000 are missing, and I would imagine that they're probably going to find more people who are dead And so my prayers go out to them, to the people of Maui, specifically Luhania. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. That town is completely destroyed, completely destroyed. So what's going on? Why are we having so many wildfires? Remember, not too long ago, the skies of New York were orange. They were orange when you had a wildfire up in Canada. You see wildfires in California at the time, but Hawaii, how did this happen? Oh, is 80 confirmed dead? 1,500 unaccounted for? Well, some of the residents in Hawaii are getting a bit suspicious as to why this happened. Was it done intentionally? That's what some residents are saying. And why? Let's take a look at some more. Imagine being in that right there. So how did these fires start? Why are there so many fires happening all over the country? Why are there so many explosions of trains, earthquakes, and storms? Is it because of climate change? Is it because of global warming? Or is it biblical? You've been reading your Bible? Well, according to some residents, they believe this was done intentionally because of plans that they have, which they released back in January of this year. Plans to redevelop the area into what is known as a 15-minute city. And I spoke about this before. 15-minute cities. They're going up all over the country. We're getting them here in the city of Yonkers as well. Mixed-use developments. So what a coincidence that this town would be completely demolished as they seek to redevelop it to put mixed-use developments there. Now they don't have to waste the time bulldozing the houses down. They're already gone. Makes it easier for them. So this is making some residents suspicious of what really happened. I mean, it's a tropical place, right? A lot of moisture in the foliage.
That have come out from Lahaina, Maui, with what they're calling a wildfire or a storm that ripped through the beautiful island.
Look at the ring, the perfect ring around this town there. The ring of fire.
And destroyed the historic town of Lahaina. So I'm not going to try to prove that this was HARP. This was HARP. That much is obvious. But why? What I want to know is why did they burn down the beautiful, gorgeous town of Lahaina where I got to spend my honeymoon at? So I went and did a little digging. And with your guys' help, I came up with some stuff. Listen to what this smart female has to say.
Redevelop the land. This is a land grab. They're 100% trying to purge it. You cannot allow them to come in here and take this land because that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to redevelop it. They're going to have 15-minute cities.
I wonder if this is what she meant by land grab. Or maybe it's this.
New phase of villages. Housing projects call for
What's the
250
date?
units.
January. What do we have here? You see, there's never anything that is done by accident or coincidence. Everything is planned.
So right there about the South Maui community plan. So they had this community plan back in January. So what a coincidence. Is it just a coincidence? Or is there something else going on? Was this intentionally set? And if it was, how was it intentionally set? The woman here is blaming something known as HARP. It's time that we start believing in conspiracy theories because enough of them are coming to be, are becoming true, or we're realizing that they are true. They're saying that UFOs exist now. So is this real? HARP. And what is HARP? Yes, HARP is real. HARP is real. I want to talk about HARP before, and then we'll talk about the 15-minute cities. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. HARP, this is what it looks like here. This is in Alaska. This is a government facility. Among the experiments is the Moon Bounce, a joint operation of the JPL Owens Valley Radio Observatory in California and the University of New Mexico Long Wavelength Array. The purpose is to test the coordination of 3 facilities for the eventual study of near-Earth asteroids, especially those that can be a hazard to Earth. Knowing an asteroid's composition can influence the type of defense to be used. The experiment consists of transmitting a signal from HARP to the moon and receiving the reflected signal at the California and New Mexico sites. So they want to beam a signal up into the moon, bounce that signal back to targeted locations in California and New Mexico. So you don't think that maybe they're already using this and targeting specific areas to set them on fire? There's videos of these strange lights coming down. Remember, Trump created Space Force for space defense, space weapons. This is real. When you hear about these trillions of dollars that go missing from the Pentagon, taxpayer money, what do you think they're spending that on? It's not helping the people. It's not to help with poverty. It's not to rebuild all the schools across the country. It's not to assure that people have homes. Where is this money going? It's going to things like this that they don't want people to know about. You think this is about asteroids? They want to bounce a signal down. And what does these signals do to the people? Many experts warn against 5G signals, the telephone, your cell phone signals in these 5G towers. You can go online and watch videos of guys going around with radiation meters, and you can see how high the readings are. So, what is that doing to our health? So, was this intentionally set? Whistleblower, the Pentagon's ultimate weapon, whistleblower says. Known as Project HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, the experiment involves the world's largest ionospheric heater, a device designed to zap the skies hundreds of kilometers above the Earth with high-frequency radio waves. Right, irradiate the charged particles of the ionosphere, which when energized by natural processes, make up the lovely and famous phenomenon known as the Northern Lights. According to the U.S. Navy and Air Force co-sponsors of the project, to observe the complex natural variation of Alaska's ionosphere. But is it really about weather modification, triggering earthquakes, as one whistleblower has said who worked in Antarctica? He said that they're working on some weather modification, or I should say, some earthquake triggering device that's dug deep into the ice in Alaska, and it can trigger an earthquake wherever they want. It's time to stop thinking that this is all a conspiracy and people who believe in this are need to wear tinfoil hats. 15-minute cities are real. So are they clearing out cities? The rural areas to push everyone into the cities so that they can be all in these 15-minute cities, which will make them easy to surveil, easy to keep accounted for. There was one point where most of the people lived in rural areas. They lived in the country, about 90% of the population. That has changed. Now it's 90% in the cities and 10% in rural areas. And you have all these rich billionaires buying up all the land. Let's hear what this lady has to say.
You may not think that rural America has anything to do with you, but let me explain why it does. You see, small towns like this, like Keys, Oklahoma, are all too common now. The agriculture economy has been hit so hard in this country that all the jobs associated with it are gone. The lumber stores are closed, the grocery stores are gone, the gas stations. What does this mean for you? It means that in agriculture in America, it's gotten so hard because of our politicians selling out the American farmer and rancher that people don't want to fight it anymore. They sell their land, they move to the big cities, and they live out the rest of their days as best they can. What does this mean for you? It means that with every producer we lose on the land in this country, it means that a corporation comes in and takes it over. And that if people like Bill Gates control our food supply in America, we lose our freedom. Follow and like, and I'll explain more about agriculture in our...
So that's what they're doing. And they've done this in other countries. America has always done this. What do you think happened in Vietnam? Took over the rice fields, right? Every time America goes into a country, a third world country, they push out the people who are the ones, doing the work and, reaping the rewards of their labor. And they take the land. They put in a puppet government who allows the land to be sold to these foreign entities who then create these corporations that go in and take the minerals or take the resources to sell to people all over the world. It's all about monopolizing every industry and monopolizing all of government. UN, the World Health Organization, NATO. That's what it's all about. And our politicians will tell us one thing and say another thing later on. They lie. Even your favorite politician, if you're an Obama fan, well, Obama's a liar too. Obama is a liar. Listen to Obama, right? Because they're blaming, they're calling these Trump people who, anyone, not even Trump supporters, but anyone who believes that the elections were rigged, crazy. Trump supporters or radical right-wing people. No, many of them are people with common sense. But the Democrats themselves were telling us about election fraud.
We need to know the full extent of Senator Obama's relationship with Acorn, who is now on the verge of maybe perpetrating one of the greatest frauds in voter history in this country, maybe destroying the fabric of democracy. Same front outfit organization that your campaign gave $832,000 for quote, lighting and site selection.
Now, with respect to Acorn, Acorn is a community organization. Apparently what they've done is they were paying people to go out and register folks. And apparently some of the people who were out there didn't really register people. They just filled out a bunch of names.
You hear that? Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? Obama admitted it. There's election fraud happening. That's election fraud, Obama. And that was done by a political organization that you donated money to, that was supporting Democrats.
The millennials, dreamers, undocumented citizens, and I call them citizens because they contribute to this country, are fearful of voting. So if I vote, will immigration know where I live? Will they come for my family and deport us?
Not true.
Okay.
And the reason is, first of all, when you vote, you are a citizen yourself, and there is not a situation where the voting rolls somehow are transferred over and people start investigating, et cetera. The sanctity of the vote is strictly confidential in terms of who you voted for. If you have a family member who maybe is undocumented, then you have an even greater reason to vote.
I can't. So that's when Obama, wanted to give migrants, those who are undocumented, the right to vote. But they're saying they're concerned because they don't want to get in trouble if they go and vote. Right? We have an issue at the border. Mass migration, waves of migrants coming here, undocumented. They're being bussed here, flown here. Eric Adams has sent many to Westchester towns and cities. Yonkers has received migrants. And are they clearing out many of the cities to replace people with the migrants? Is that what the Democrats are planning on doing? I mean, they're receiving everything you can think of in support. Recently, Mayor Eric Adams came up with an idea where they would pay people $100 a day to house a migrant. That's SRO, single room occupancy. That's technically illegal. If you have an insurance policy and you take in one of these migrants and you're collecting rent for them and you give them a room and your house catches on fire, your insurance company is not going to pay it, especially if it started in that room. Just so you know, because you're renting a room out illegally. But imagine what greedy landlords are going to do if that passes. They're going to start pushing people out because they know they can get $100 a day per migrant. Put 3 of them in an apartment, $300 a day, $1,500 a week. That's $6,000 a month. more than double what they would get for that apartment. People in Americans who are in need of housing assistance are not even getting that much. They're not giving them $100 a day when you break it down on their vouchers or whatever assistance they're receiving. That's crazy. And they're pushing everyone into the cities to create these 15-minute cities. What are 15-minute cities? Let's talk about that. The 15-minute city meets human needs, but leaves desired wanting. Here's why. This is from the World Economic Forum. Get to know what the World Economic Forum is, because they're making a lot of decisions that are impacting you right here in Yonkers. They may be in Davos, but they're impacting you in YO. That's why we have these developments that are going up the way they are. These are 15-minute city developments. That is why they're putting them in such condensed areas. They don't care if there won't be any room for cars. They don't care if they're building them with not enough parking spaces, because ultimately the goal is for you not to have a car. It's a 15-minute city. Take a bike, electric bike. Take an electric scooter. Take an electric Uber. The 15-minute city aims to reorganize urban space around work, home, community, and amenities. The idea is that every need is fulfilled within a 15-minute walk or short bike ride. Various cities around the world have begun to embrace the 15-minute city approach, but urban life is about more than access to amenities, and the 15-minute model risks excluding disadvantaged communities. Even if there is a 15-minute baseline, great city centers with world-class experiences should remain accessible to all. That's what 15-minute cities are. That's, again, the World Economic Forum. Why? What are they and how do they work? As recently as 2 decades ago, more people lived in the countryside than in the urban areas, as I stated before. But that has changed since. Around 56% of global population are now at home in cities, and the number continues to rise. According to the United Nations, 2/3 of roughly 10 billion people that will inhabit planet Earth by the year 2050 will live in built-up areas, cities. This consistent city spread has revealed serious cracks in their planning, shedding light on issues such as social injustice and exclusion, inadequate public transportation networks, and smog-related health issues. One idea that has been gaining traction recently as a way towards a more sustainable, livable, and healthy future are 15-minute cities. The idea behind the concept is to build cities in such a way that most daily necessities and services are located within 15-minute walk or bike ride. Carlos Moreno, urbanist and professor at the Sorbonne University in Paris, first came up with the idea in 2016. He wanted everyone to have easy access to shops, schools, doctors, the gyms, parks, restaurants, and cultural institutions. So what do you think about that? It's gaining significant traction politically and in planning circles, but what does it mean? Definitions vary, and there's so much slack in the concept. The term offers twofold opportunity for urbanists. Right? As I said, the 15-minute walk, right? It was used as a cornerstone of Mayor Anne Hidalgo's successful re-election in Paris, France in 2020. And lately, former HUD Secretary Sean Donovan has adopted the concept. HUD Secretary Sean Donovan has adopted the concept. That means that the federal government is giving money to these developers. That is why they are all in a rush to build. They're getting a lot of free money. As long as they're going to build these 15-minute cities, and they're putting it for all kinds of grants, all kinds of climate change, sustainable grants, education, this, childcare, that. That's why some of them are being built with childcare. It's all about grabbing money, taking all this money before it hits the fan. And what better way of doing it than through real estate? Urbanists have an urgent opportunity to help define the 15-minute city and what it means to sustainable planning and urban design before it discredited a mere political slogan. And what's crazy is that there's so much land, right? They're pushing everybody into the cities. Why? Why not spread it out? Why not build in all that land we have in the Midwest and out west? Why are they condensing all the cities? Is it because World War III is going to blow up major cities around the world? So they want to get everyone packed in there so you can get blown up? They try to kill you with the virus. What do you call that? Jab. In fact, there's a county in Florida, Brevard County, I believe. They are pushing to have the jab, the COVID vaccine, banned in the state of Florida. They are saying that it is a biological weapon. That's right. Elected officials in Brevard County in Florida are pushing for the governor to ban the COVID-19 vaccine in Florida, and they are saying that it is a biological weapon. Elected officials in Florida. Joe Biden is under investigation by the FBI, but they're keeping that quiet. He is, and Hunter Biden. You see how they lie to us? You see what's happening here? They're pushing us into 15-minute cities. They're censoring us, censoring the press, stealing all the money, buying up all the real estate. Doesn't matter if it's single-family homes. They've been doing this for a while. If you own real estate, you're getting calls from these real estate, conglomerates, some from China and Israel, here in the United States. They're calling people to buy up your home. It doesn't matter if it's a small, 900 square foot home, single family home, 1,300 square foot. They want it all because the World Economic Forum wants to turn everyone into a renter, and you'll be happy, you'll own nothing. That's their slogan. That's what it's all about. Pay attention. If you don't believe that your government will intentionally destroy a community like they did in Hawaii, then you are being naive. Another conspiracy that came true is the John F. Kennedy assassination. That was done by our own government, people within our own government. It's time to wake up before it's too late. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Shout out to Yonkers Police Department. I appreciate you guys. And, see what happens with that Hezi thing. A lot of people felt bad for Hezi. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. There's not a lot of information in that lawsuit. I don't know what's going on really other than now he's apologizing. But again, I haven't heard anything negative myself on Keith Olsen. Hezi's apologizing. So I think the right thing to do is give Keith Olsen some props because he's been through some stuff and there's nothing proven. Shout out to Yonkers PBA President Keith Olsen. I mean, there's nothing negative, right? Even Hezi now was saying he was lying. Oh, he was misled. He was given the wrong information. I don't know. Leeward side of the island, that side doesn't get as much rain as the eastern side. 80% of the island is under abnormally dry condition. 14% was in moderate drought. So they took advantage. There was a category 4 hurricane 300 miles south that converged with a high pressure system. And that's what they're saying. And the winds, fan the fire. The north producing gusts of 80 miles. Freddie, 15-minute cities and Agenda 2030 is very real. However, HARP had less than zero to do with the destruction of Maui. There are people out there who deliberately put out false information. Oh, absolutely, right? That's what Hezi's saying. To make genuine people seeking. Yeah, I think that's what the whole QAnon thing is about. That's why I don't buy into that stuff, the QAnon stuff, and the whole the reptiles and the reptilians and all that stuff. I don't know about all of that stuff, right? So people get crazy, and the underground bunkers and bases and all that stuff, right? Some people get crazy, but I believe that that we have technology. Like, look, the United States, the Congress, they're having these UFO hearings. The Tic Tacs, those things that fighter pilots and people are reporting, right? And they're saying, are those UFOs? I don't believe those are UFOs. I believe that's technology that our government has. I believe those are drones, because of the way they move. There's no way a human or a biological, entity can be in that and survive unless it is some crazy, unique alien, but I doubt it. I think that whole weather balloon with the Chinese weather balloons and all that, I think that's all our government trying to keep things hush-hush from us. So there's technology that they have that's way advanced. And, they're like 20, 40 years ahead of us in the technology. You remember the government was using the internet back, in the 40s or 50s and 60s, maybe 50s and 60s, right? They were already using internet, and so I think that they do have weapons that can create this destruction. And I think that it wouldn't be far-fetched because they are trying to, there's an agenda to reduce the population, right? They're saying there's not enough resources, that we need to reduce the population by, several billion people, right? And that's what a lot of wars were about. Also, the military industrial complex, obviously making money, but think about how many people die in war, right? And think about what they did to all of Europe during the wars, the World War I and World War II. I mean, they obliterated a lot of Europe, right? Bombing all these buildings. But it's funny how they never bombed like the palaces, right? They never bombed the palaces. Unless they just want to completely destroy a certain race of people or culture, like they never existed, like the Tartarians, right? The Tartaria, right? They never bombed the palaces and stuff like that. It's always the people's building stuff. So they completely destroy Europe. And I would believe that now with the technology that they have, they can do that without having this grand old war where they're dropping bombs on cities. I think they can do it through laser weapons. I believe they have out in space. There's even a video that came from the space station where you see something coming towards Earth, and then something shoots at it, and then it just shoots away. And this is video from NASA, right? This is not someone who made this video. This is clearly out in space. And the thing wasn't a shooting star or asteroid because it then, changed its trajectory, right? It went the opposite direction after something came shooting at it. It looked like a light. So yes, that's EMP, electronic, I forgot how you say electronic, magnetic pulse, electromagnetic pulse or something like that can completely wipe out, a city's grid or an entire country's grid, electrical grid, shutting off the lights. And look, they're saying this. Bill Gates is talking about this, right? Klaus Schwab, right? The guy that runs the World Economic Forum. He's saying this. He's saying that there could be one day where we could have all electricity go out and we won't have internet. We won't have anything. We must prepare for that. He's saying this. And they're also preparing for pandemic number 2. This is what they're saying. There's going to be another pandemic. So I believe that they're going to create this because they said this before we got the first pandemic. I mean, it was only several months before Bill Gates and the foundation was having a mock pandemic, event, right? Where they were pretending that there was this COVID virus that had broken out, and they had the fake news and the way it was going to respond and everything. It was exactly how the real thing went. And he said in 2017, he believed we would be having a pandemic, a virus. So, I mean, either this guy is, a psychic, he's, Edgar Casey or Nostradamus, to the 10th power, or he is involved in creating this stuff. And I wouldn't doubt it. Bill Gates is a eugenist. He comes from a family of eugenists, right? They want to kill babies. That's what also Planned Parenthood is all about, right? Eliminating the births, right? Eliminating more babies being born. And it, it disproportionately affects specifically Black Americans, right? There are more Black Americans, babies aborted in this country, although Black Americans are one of the smaller populations in this country, right? So, we have to really see things for what they are. And I believe that they could do this. Sure, there's dry areas. I mean, but the burn patterns, what I see, and I'm not a fire expert, but I've done, I was in the fire business for 10 years. And by the way, I'm actually getting out of that business. That's why I'm not renewing the license and stuff, because I'm getting into the, childcare business one day again anyway. So, but I know it, I've seen it. I've worked with fire investigators, and I've learned to, determine where fire started, how it spread, the way it travels. And that stuff literally looks like there's a bomb going off. I mean, you look how charred the homes are. There's almost nothing left, even of the vehicles, right? There's nothing left. Sure, you could say there's accelerants, you have propane tanks, you have, gas in the cars and stuff. I get that. But it's the way the damage is very severe and very almost targeted and specific. And sometimes, a lot of times you look at the streets, you don't see any, if it's traveling across the street, you don't see any marks on the streets. A lot of you see debris from blowing across the street, but you don't see any charred or fire marks on the streets. It's like they're keeping the infrastructure, right? They're keeping the roads in place. They got the trees. A lot of the trees are still up, right? But they want to get rid of the homes. That's what it looks like. So I don't know. I just don't trust our government anymore, and I've known not to trust them since I used to, read up on the JFK assassination. So that's what I believe. Yeah. EMP makes more sense for China. First strike nuclear attack makes more sense for Russia. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what they're all capable of, but I think China's already, at war with us. I think China's already invaded us in some respects. I mean, they own how much? Almost $1 trillion dollars of our debt. They own a lot of property in here in the United States. They buying a lot of real estate. They've been funding a lot of universities and research within these universities, right? And they also they own a lot of corporations here through shell companies, right? The CCP or whatever, the Chinese government. And so they've recently found these biolabs that were being funded by China here in America, right? What are they doing here with these, these deadly viruses and stuff in these makeshift biolabs that they're funding, right? Where they're finding dead animals and stuff in them. And it's being funded by China. And if that's true about those weather balloons that China's sending over here, we're already at war. They've already been attacking us. They've already been changing the culture, right? They've been changing our society. They've infiltrated our what do you call this? Contemporary culture, right? They own TikTok, I believe, right? They may be involved with other social media stuff, right? And through that, they're utilizing, look, a lot of everything damn near is made in China and it comes back here, right? A lot of, computer parts and all that stuff. We don't know what, that's how that guy McCaffrey, got so much information. Remember him, the guy who created the antivirus software? What did he do? He was smart. He put his antivirus software in computers and then donated them to the United States government. And they gladly took them. But what they didn't realize is that he put a virus in there so he could backdoor them and get into everything that they were, doing. So he gained a lot of information that way, right? And they didn't even know. That's one time, listen, Vera Shako, the judge, she had offered me a filing cabinet, right? And I didn't take it. I went and bought my own because I'm like, I don't know if they have a bug in. First of all, nobody's ever called me to offer me anything. So I was very surprised that she was. And I said, they probably put a bug in there, right? So I didn't take it just because of that reason. So if you ever wonder why I never came to pick up that filing cabinet, Judge Shako. But the building department thought the same thing when I brought a plant over to them. I spent $30 on this damn plant. I brought it over there and they got rid of it because they thought I put a bug in it. No, maybe, a real bug, but not a listening device. I was just trying to be nice to the ladies and stuff, because I had been battling them for so long. Because I'm really a nice guy, right? I'm really a nice guy, and I hope that some of you folks get to know that. Who may think otherwise. If you do stuff to me, I'm gonna do stuff to you. That's just how I am. And if you really are an honest person and you want to know that, and you're really willing to be, honest with yourself and other people, that I was attacked. These people came at me in the most disgusting way, and I had to do what I had to do because they're cop callers. So when I went to go see them, they called the cops. So I said, all right, I'll just expose them too. But it's not like I'm a bad person. I don't think Hezzy's a bad person, although, I think Keith Olsen would say, to the contrary. I don't know him really. So but a lot of people say, he's not, I don't think he's a bad person. I just think maybe, I don't know, he didn't make the right moves. I don't know. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Peace up out of here. Have a beautiful Sunday. I can't wait till next week. Or the following week. I got a lot of things going on. A lot of great things. I'm being positive, right? So God willing, everything is going to be great. And, we're going to rock and roll as we always do. Opinion wrong. It doesn't make you a bad person for that opinion. I appreciate it. You gave it to me respectfully. So hope you're doing well. And I welcome more emails from you. Thank you for watching. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a beautiful night. I'm about to chill with my wife because that's what we do. Freddie wins. Email me at politicwithfred@gmail.com. Freddie wins. Fatality.
watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
I was raised in housing.